Hi. So today I am going to be doing a bridal tutorial using all drugstore. I was gonna say product, I was like deliberating between products and makeup. Not just drugstore, but your favorites. A lot of these are going to be your favorites that you left me in some comments recently. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. This is gonna be 2 parts. I'm gonna do this one, which is going to be easy. It's gonna be easy to follow. If you're doing your own makeup for your own wedding, hopefully it's easy to follow. But if you want something a little bit more like elevated and glamorous, after this, I can do that using the exact same products. So let me know. So as far as prep, I think the most important thing for like a wedding, whether you're a guest or you're the bride, is going to be just longevity, obviously. So you don't want to be like mixing a ton of products. You want to avoid things like pilling. Here's what I'll say. I'm huge on sunscreen, but sometimes it can get in the way. And so I would say like this one day, if you don't have a sunscreen that like works well with your makeup, avoid it. I just prepped my skin with my moisturizer. I'm not using any primer or anything. That's it. That's how I'm starting. The first thing that I'm going to do is my eyebrows. So I'm going to set them with soap because I want to avoid that like white cast that can happen if I apply a little bit too much. So I'm using my Dr. Bronner's soap on this e.l.f. Brow Lift applicator. This way I can just kind of like clean up anything and I don't have to worry about like getting it in my foundation or whatever. I can be a little bit more reckless. I'm also going to be using as many drugstore brushes as I possibly can, just to put that out there. So I'm going to start by color correcting underneath my eyes with my LA Girl Pro Conceal in Light Ivory. So I think a lot of people think like because it's your wedding, you want to be like super glam, which is fine. Like I think you should totally do glam, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need a ton of product. So, well, as I put down like the most color corrector I've ever put down in my life. Jesus. So like there's something to be said for amping it up a little bit and going in a little because you know there's going to be photos. You also want to make sure that it lasts. You don't want your blush to fade and things like that. But it doesn't necessarily mean you need to pile it on, you know? All right, for foundation, I'm going to be using the NYX Born to Glow because I want this to be glowy. I want to basically enhance my features and make me look like my best self. So this is in the shade Alabaster. Pick it up on the sponge. I'm going to start in the center of my face where I have redness. I've got a little bit of like little not blemishes, but irritation on my nose. And like anytime, I want to build this up slowly, you know, because like I said, you're going to be wearing this for a bit. You want it to be comfortable. You don't want to end up with like a ton of breakage or just like a ton of product everywhere. Especially if you're someone who doesn't really wear makeup very much. You know, a lot of people think that they really want to do the glam, but then, you know, they'll do like a test and they get it done and they're like, oh my God, I look like a different person. I hate this. You want to look like yourself, you know? Which in my opinion means if you wear an Amy Winehouse winged liner every day, do that. Like, you know? Another thing that you want to keep in mind, especially if you have a foundation that doesn't like match you perfectly, anywhere that your skin is showing. So like, I obviously have this thing on right now. Like if your dress is revealing any skin, you want to apply your foundation there, or at least a tiny bit so that you have like cohesive color throughout your body, because that will especially show up in photographs. Okay, so for concealer, I'm going to use, oh, I have an itch on my nose. The L'Oreal Infallible Full Wear, I almost just threw it in my face, concealer in Ivory. Jesus. So I'm going to use this where I want a little bit of brightening and a little bit more coverage. This is a very full coverage concealer. I would say my biggest tips, especially if you're doing your own makeup, are practice ahead of time and then don't deviate. Like once you find things that work, do not deviate from those. No game time decisions, okay? And take your time, like allot yourself like 3 hours just in case, you know? You never know when like something's gonna go wrong. So I'm highlighting in here because I really want those cheekbones to pop when I go in with my contour and bronzer. Just doing a little bit more than usual. Okay, so I'm actually gonna start off with my bronzer before I do my contour. So I'm gonna use the the e.l.f. Putty Bronzer. This is in the lightest shade. I can't remember the name of it, but the lightest one. And I'm going to use this Revlon brush. I think it's a highlighting brush, but it's so good for this kind of thing, especially for like when you need precision. The best thing to do in this situation, if you're trying to maintain coverage, like for instance, if you did a bunch of spot concealing or if you have acne, is this motion, this patting motion, will allow you to blend without removing that coverage rather than doing this. I'm doing a combo because I don't really have any like breakouts that I'm trying to hide, you know? So I'm starting by cupping underneath my cheekbones and kind of marry it up to my temple and then bringing it to the cheek. Now I'm doing my face first because I think that this is the most important part for bridal. Like, I just think that like making sure that your skin looks glowy and flawless is like what bridal makeup is all about. Okay, now I'm gonna do something that I don't typically do with my bronzer. I'm going to run it along my jawline because I want to create that like depth and glow in every area of my face. I hate that sound. And then remember, anywhere that like your skin is showing, you want to make sure that you're putting it. So I'm gonna take it, ooh, that was too much. Basically just like around the contours. So down my neck, like down the contours of my neck, in here, on my collarbones. All right, I wanna amp up that glow. So I'm going to go in with the Flower Beauty Spotlight Liquid Highlighter. This is in the shade Opal. This is like essentially like a dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury highlighters. So I'm gonna start by putting it like kind of in the areas where I guess I would highlight but also bronze. So I'm keeping it a little bit lower on my cheekbone. And I'm actually gonna use that same bronzer brush to tap that out. Okay, so for my contour, I'm using the NYX Wonder Stick. This is in the shade Fair. So now I'm gonna really contour because I really just want everything to pop. So this is where the detail comes in. This is where a double chin comes in. And to blend that out, I'm using the e.l.f. Putty Bronzer brush. Not for the bronzer, for NYX. Now, if you feel like you need to wear a long-lasting primer, like if you have one and it works for you, then definitely do that. I just don't really believe in that stuff. I think that my makeup wears beautifully when I just use a moisturizer. If you're someone who doesn't like to contour your nose or do things like that, maybe just dust a tiny bit of bronzer just across the top. The only reason that besides the fact that I really like contouring my nose and I like to make it look a little bit like smaller. One of the reasons that I like doing that and also contouring my lips is because when I put bronzer and contour everywhere else, it feels so undone when I don't do it to my nose or my lips or whatever. So just keep that in mind. All right, for my blush, I'm going to use kind of a combination. I have two e.l.f. Putty blushes. I don't know the names because there's no stickers on here that say the names. But I have this one, which is a little bit more like kind of strawberry. And then this one, which is a little more like pink. So I'm gonna mix these two. So I would say, especially with like the blush and the highlight, really go in, like have fun. Make your skin look like glowy and healthy and colorful. All right, I'm gonna put that aside for a second while I set my under eyes. So I'm gonna be using the flower powder. This is from Beauty Bakery. And I'm going to use another one of those little Revlon highlighter brushes. Not really what I was expecting. I was expecting something more brightening, but it's fine. Okay, I'm gonna go in with the CoverGirl Lid Lock Up Eye Primer. Now, while I'm waiting for that to kind of like set a little bit more, I'm gonna go back in with that sponge with my blush on it and just kind of like run over my cheeks again. Sometimes when you go in with powder, it sort of disappears. And then, I know this might seem kind of crazy, but basically you want to end up doing like a lot of layering because your makeup will last a lot longer that way. So now I'm going to go in with the apricot shade of Revlon blush, this shade right here. And I'm going to basically set all of that. And I'm using, this is actually like a powder brush by e.l.f., the e.l.f. Flawless Face brush. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with my bronzer. So I want to go over everywhere that I like contoured and bronzed with a powder. So I'm gonna use the Wet n Wild Coloricon bronzer. What color? Oh, Ticket to Brazil. Using a really light hand. I'm just gonna dust this over my cream bronzer on the side of my face, my jawline. Taking it down my neck. And this will help everything stay in place. It'll last really nicely. Basically, the whole idea is just going in with like light layers, nice light layers of cream and powder. So everything kind of just like melts into your skin and lasts super long. And it also creates just like a really beautiful dimension. All right, I wanna do my eyes before I finish everything off with highlighter. I'm gonna do literally the exact same thing that I did for my face. So I'm starting off with my bronzer. I'm gonna go in with that Wet n Wild bronzer, the powder. So I'm using this Wet n Wild brush. I don't know, it came in like a little set. It looks like this. It's like with the pink tip, I really don't know. So I'm just gonna swirl into that bronzer and I'm basically gonna put this everywhere. I'm starting in my crease, but I'm gonna let it go onto my lid and then I'm gonna buff it up to my brows. And then when I get out here, I'm gonna kind of like marry it with the bronzer that was up my temples. I'm gonna start by building that up. Same thing on my lower lash line. I'm picking up, once again, a Wet n Wild brush from that collection with that bronzer. Just running it on my lower lash line. Same brush. I'm gonna do that with my blush, my Revlon blush. Through my, literally over that bronzer. I'm just not gonna take it out as far. I'm gonna pretty much keep it like on the eyes. Just using whatever's left over and dusting it underneath my lower lash line. I'm grabbing the Fluffy Eye Blender brush by e.l.f. and I'm gonna dip into the LA Girl The Nudist eyeshadow palette. I'm gonna pick up this shade right here. And what I'm gonna do is just focus this like right on the outer part into the crease a little bit and then buff it out. Because you know I love like that kind of cat eye like lifted look. So I'm just using this to kind of like enhance that contour a little bit. And then I'm using this flat brush, once again from the Wet n Wild, whatever, picking up that same brush, color. And I'm going to focus that on the outer corner of my lower lash line. All right, I'm gonna use the Milani Stay Put eyeliner. This is in the shade Semi Sweet, so it's a brown. Someone suggested this. I'm going to kind of tightline my upper lash line. And then I'm just gonna use this little like angled brush by Wet n Wild to kind of like blend it out. So this is literally just to define my lashes. I'm focusing it on the outer part of the eye as well, like the outer half. All right, and for the lower lash line, I'm gonna do basically the same thing. I'm gonna keep it on the outer corner of the lower lash line, like right there. All right, I'm gonna go in with highlighter. So I'm going to be using the Wet n Wild Mega Glow Highlighting, Jesus, why do I keep almost dropping it? Mega Glow Highlighting Powder in Blossom Glow. I'm gonna start off by picking this up with my finger, and I'm gonna put this right in the center of my lid. And then using the e.l.f. highlighting brush, I'm going to place that on my cheekbones. And then of course, onto my collarbone and stuff. To finish off my brows, I'm gonna go in with this brow pencil from NYX. This is the eyebrow powder pencil. This is in the shade Taupe. And now that I have that, I'm gonna go in with my NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Pen in the shade Taupe and create some individual brow hairs. All right, for the glamorous bridal makeup, we can definitely do like falsies and everything, but for this one, I'm just gonna curl my lashes and apply this my new favorite mascara. This is the Maybelline Sky High Sensational, or Lash-sational mascara. This is the waterproof one. And someone recommended this and it took me a really long time to actually try it, and I love it. I personally think that like just wearing lip liner is the best option because it's long wearing. It's not gonna like move around and stuff, you know? So I'm gonna start with the NYX Slide On, Glide On, Stay On waterproof lip liner in Nude Suede Shoes, which someone recommended. You could just stop here, but I'm gonna go in with Gone Greige by Maybelline, Color Sensational, to do a little contouring. Okay, and just to prevent my lips from like totally drying out, I'm just gonna pop a little bit of lip balm with SPF on, just like the tiniest bit. I'm gonna take the tiniest bit and kind of focus it like in the center, just to like hydrate my lips, you know? All right guys, so this is my easy bridal makeup tutorial, especially if you're doing it on yourself. It's easy because you're using basically all the same products that you used on your face for your eyes. And it's just very glowy, you know? So like your skin looks very like glowy and healthy and everything. We layered some products, everything kind of like melts together. It's gonna last. It's very comfortable and it doesn't feel like I'm wearing a ton of makeup. It also looks like me, you know? Like this looks like me, but like if I woke up looking fabulous immediately. No falsies, you know. I already know that you want to see, you know, like a glam, like a really glam, something like an evening. This is more of like a daytime, fresh summer wedding kind of vibe, I guess. If you're someone who like wants to look glam, but you don't want to look like too much, this is like pretty classic and easy. And then if you want to see, I already know you want to see it. If you want to see something like more, evening wedding, evening fall wedding vibes, like something a little bit more like creative and sultry, let me know about that. And I can literally do that with all the same products. Make it drugstore. It doesn't matter, you can tell me if you want to see it, but I'm gonna film it anyway, so. All right guys, I hope this was helpful in some way, especially if you, I know I've had like a lot of people be like, please do a bridal tutorial. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon. Bye.